Welcome back to Kingdom Cast. This is your host, Bad Luck Chuck. We're back at it again with another episode. Like to thank y'all for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share all your social media platforms. It is officially draft month, as it is today, April the 3rd, a few weeks away from the NFL draft. And we're going to get into future draft prospects, and we're going to talk about a draft experts draft board here on the show. But before we get to that, I'd like to introduce my guy, Country, to the top right-hand corner of the screen. And this guy's been a special guest on our show before. He does a lot of great work with the NFL draft and everything. He's from now the Kingdom Says podcast. I guess he's their draft expert on there. So I'd like to welcome Arrowhead Tom back to Kingdom Cast. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm excited to be here. Always love. Thanks for saying it's draft month. People are like, oh, it's draft season official. It's draft season year round.
Right.
That once the 2020. I've already started looking at some 2023 guys, but that's probably a little excessive.
Oh my!
I didn't know that.
Come on, don't roast our guy like that.
Oh boy,
don't roast our guy like that, man. Come on.
Good pull, James. Hey, yo, before we start, though, Gary and Kyle, y'all stole Tom from us. We coming for y'all, though.
Hey, it is what it is. We can't get them all, right?
Nah, our brothers at Kingdom Says. Those are our brothers.
Yeah.
They trying to recruit us to get that network on them. I don't know. I'm thinking about
it. But yeah, much respect to those guys, man, as well. So,
Sure.
But yeah, man, let's get into it, man. So Arrowhead Tom, man, you've been doing some kingdom building, as you would say, whenever you post about all these draft prospects. You give out your positives and your negatives, along with some other notes, and it's great work, man. So, keep doing what you're doing, man. But let's get into that, man. I want to talk about, before we get into your little draft board, I want to talk about what Joe Marino did with his draft board as far as the first two picks. And I'm iffy on that, man. His draft board said that she's taking Jahan Dotson at 29 and David Ojabo at 30. Now, Dotson, I mean, he's solid and everything, but I think there's plenty of receivers I would rather have than Jahan Dotson. Like, if he was a second-round guy, sure, I'll take him. And then there's David Ojabo, man. Like, Ojabo, I mean, I'm cool, but he got the Achilles injury, man. That's kind of iffy on that end. So what was your thoughts when you saw his latest draft board?
Yeah, so we were just talking about that. To me, it's a little wild. Let's start with the first pick. I'm actually a Jahan Dotson fan. I was huge on him coming into the season, and then he just kind of had a boring, lackluster season and didn't really take the next step like I wanted. So I think that he's probably a day two guy. So you could make the argument that he's worth a first round pick, but I don't see it. I don't see it in terms of his development. So I think he's probably close to his ceiling. I think he'll be a good player in the NFL, but I don't know about taking him at 29. That's a little rich for me. I don't mind the David Ojabo pick. Just knowing, again, it stinks knowing that he's going to be a redshirt, but this is a guy who's a top 20 pick before this injury. And he doesn't fit a lot of what Steve Spagnuolo likes, but his athletic profile is just really, really exciting. And he was having a great combine and great workouts and all that stuff right before the injury. And it's kind of, that's one of the things that you see that, better teams in the NFL do sometimes is they're willing to take the risks on elite athletes with injury histories. That's how Trey Smith ended up in Kansas City, right? That was a guy who had talent well beyond the 6th round, but had some medical concerns, and they were willing to do their homework. And again, the Kansas City Chiefs have one of the best training staffs in the NFL, one of the most underrated parts of that organization. Just by all kinds of different metrics, they do some really phenomenal work of taking care of their guys and keeping guys in shape to play and helping them rehab. So if I'm David Ojabo, I can't think of a better place to land than Kansas City, because you're going to get some really good experience. You get that kind of that redshirt year to learn, and bulk up, but also you're going to land in good hands. But as far as the mock draft goes, that's a tough sell for me. To me, you got to get at least one day one starter out of one of those two picks, and I don't see it there with Dotson and Ojabo.
So Tom,
you mentioned that,
Tom, what's the? Oh, go ahead, bro.
Go ahead.
So
I
Tom,
was
what's
saying
the?
like not. My bad.
One
Go
at a
ahead,
time,
Crunchy.
guys. One at a
You
time.
got it, fam. You got it, fam.
I was saying, Tom, if you were going to move up in a scenario, how high are you going? Who are you going for? And how much you think that costs?
Ooh.
In a dream, you're Brett Beach, everybody's on the call, or you're calling everybody. Where are you trying to go and who are you trying to get?
So here's the thing. I'm a firm believer that they have to make 2 first-round picks this year. They need 2 players that they're going to have 5 years of control on, and they need them to be hits. They cannot miss on either one. They can't. And again, Clyde Edwards-Helaire can play in the league, but they can't. They don't have. It can't be a luxury pick, right? They have to get these premier positions. That's hard when you're at the back end of the draft. So I would say if you're going to jump up, probably no more than 10 spots, 11 spots, maybe as high as 20. That's usually where you can finagle and get you give up a 3rd or a 4th round pick. Part of, everybody talks about the Tyreek trade, and those extra 4th round picks add up, man, and those 6th round picks. And sometimes that's the difference when you've got 2 teams, on the line to, negotiating to be able to go, hey, dude, I'll give you a 4th round pick next year, and it's no sweat off, my back. And the Chiefs are going to be in good position for next year's draft class too, because they have another, or they'll have an extra 3rd rounder for the the guy who went to Chicago. I'm blanking on his name, but
is it Chris Pine? Not Chris Pine. That's the actor.
Poles.
Right.
Yeah, they hired.
I said Chris Pine.
Not even close. Not even close, brother.
So not the other one. But yeah, they'll have an extra 3rd, an extra 4th, an extra 6th round pick next year. So the Chiefs have a lot of ammunition to make those deals. So I think if I saw that somebody commented about Jermaine Johnson. So now I'm doing it. Names. I think Jermaine Johnson, he'll probably be a top 12 guy. That's probably early for him, but this draft class is this edge class is very top heavy. So you're probably looking at one of the wide receivers. And so if either of the Ohio State wide receivers are there or Jameson Williams are sitting there and they're kind of the last guy in that group or sitting there at 20, 19, 18, whatever, then I'd probably go up and get one of those guys just so you can I know Jameson Williams is coming back from an ACL, but it sounds like he'll be ready to go late training camp, and you should be able to get some snaps out of him his rookie year. But Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jameson Williams, those are kind of my those tier 1 receivers, and if one of those guys is still hanging around, go get him.
Yeah.
So I'm not really in the favor of trading up for a wide receiver, and because I think edge, I think corner, D tackle are that much important. It's not a lot, but I think they're more. Certainly edge is the biggest need on this team. We have absolutely what. We don't have no edges, not for real.
Yeah.
So I kind of grade, and wide receiver is so deep that you can find a guy that. Are you looking for a number 1 guy? Do we need a number 1 guy, or are we building the current offense where it's like I don't have a number 1, but I got a 2 or 3, 4, 5. I got like a couple of 2s and a 3 and a 4. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more balanced. It's more spread even. You don't know where I'm going to go. I'm going to use MVS this game. I'm going to use Juju this game. I'm going to use Travis this game. I'm going to use McCullum. You know what I'm saying? Like I think it just spreads it out even more, and I think that makes us even more dangerous.
Yeah, we talk about the receivers, and I understand. I'm kind of with you. I think it's redundant to trade away, this great receiver and then go, oh, so I'm trading him away so I can go draft a receiver that I don't know, how good he's going to be or how good he isn't going to be. If that were the route, I'd almost want to say go trade for a veteran receiver, but we probably shouldn't get into the DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin conversations if we want to keep this show on the rails. But as I'm with you on that, I'm just thinking if I have to trade up, it's just the way the board falls, because I'm happy waiting because there is depth at those other positions outside of edge, who, like I said, after Jermaine Johnson, there's a pretty big drop off kind of the top of the second tier, guys that I'm not super, I wouldn't move up for them. There are guys that I like who, if they're there at 29 or 30, Boye Mafe, Arnold Ebiketie out of Penn State. Sure, take them and run with it. I wouldn't even be mad if you double dipped at edge. If you went Arnold Ebiketie and then you took David Ojabo, knowing that you're going to get one to start, this year, and the other one's going to come behind and replace Frank Clark. I think that's worth doing. But there's a lot of ways it could play out.
Oh, Tom kind of froze up a little bit.
Oh man!
Oh, no. There we go.
Okay, there we go.
Woo!
Yeah.
Thank God.
All right. I'm still here. I promise.
Shout out to Google Fiber.
Yeah. But one of the wildest possibilities is like, what if they do a double trade up? So what if they take that 29 and they jump up really high into the, the 15 to 12 range, and then they take 30 and they jump back up into that 20 to 25 range, and you've got all these mid round picks. You could do it. So, I'm with you, Davis or James Davis.
Yeah,
don't
George
Karlaftis.
No, don't want him.
I wouldn't be mad. And I think I'm gonna go stand up on that podium for 2 edges in the first round. I can't pronounce his name. I'm not gonna even try. The dude Arnold.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Ebiketie.
And Mofa, is it Mofa or Mofi or
Mafe? Boye
Mafe.
Boye Mafe.
I'm totally off with names today, but if I could pull back that in the first round without even moving, maybe cool. Like that sounds like a win to me. What about the trade down factor? Do you think you can trade down to 35, grab an extra pick, and still get a guy that you would love?
I mean, absolutely. I don't know what the Chiefs are going to do with all those picks if they trade down, but it's potential unless they want to get try to get a first rounder next year from somebody. So if someone's like, hey, they're in the middle of round 2, and I'll give you a first this year, or the second this year and a first next year for your 30. Do it, right? Get a first round pick next year, and hopefully that team does really bad. It's tough to say trade down because they have so many picks in this year's draft. It would have to be something where they're either getting a player or they're getting draft capital for next year, which is still kind of tough to swallow. But one other thing we talked about, the edges, like the edge class is kind of rough, or at least just in terms of that tier. Like it just lines up exactly opposite in terms of where Kansas City's picking. So they're either going to have to move up or wait for a guy. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Chiefs went and if he went Sauce Gardner. Trust me, I'd be happy with that one.
Me too.
I'd trade up a lot for Sauce. But I think he's going top 5.
So how far would you jump for Sauce?
I'd jump into the top. Oh, did I freeze? Yeah, I'd go all the way up to the top 10. But that's me. I'm in love with the guy. I think he's got everything you want in a player to be that like face of your franchise on defense, right? That franchise player, just across the.
Yeah. I don't know, Chris. I don't know if Sauce goes top 5. He might though.
I mean, you got no choice but to trade up for him because, like, I think most likely he might go to the Giants or Jets if I had to guess. I think it would likely be a Jet if I had to guess. So you would definitely have to get in the top 10 for him.
Yeah,
I forgot what the Jets are selecting.
Yeah,
the Giants been talking about Sauce for weeks now. So they're at what, 5?
I think that
Giants are at 5. I think.
I gotta take a look here.
I wouldn't be mad as.
Oh wait, they are. Yeah, they're at 5 and 7, so they can go either one.
Right. You really that's a lot of compensation to try to get in that top 10.
Hey,
yeah.
You really have to do some things.
You give up a lot, but we know Brett Veach doesn't like draft picks that much. And if you get a guy who you think can be, and cornerback's one of those positions that gets paid. So, but just on the the pass rush side, if Kansas City's at the end of the first round and they don't have a spot where, there's an edge defender that they really like, I wouldn't be surprised if they would go after a guy like Devontae Wyatt, who's the defensive tackle out of Georgia. He's a pass rushing type, smaller, kind of undersized. Everyone, whenever there's a pass rushing defensive tackle, everyone wants to compare him to Chris Jones, but he's got some juice to him. And you just think, if you can't get to the quarterback from around the edges, go up the middle.
Yeah. So I've seen on some of your comps as far as the DNs are concerned. I know Jermaine Johnson, way back in last month, actually, you did a Kingdom Building report on him, and you compared him to Justin Houston, and I was like, shoot, that sounds like a chief fit to me. So that's the main guy I've been harping on, really, because we already know Aiden Hutchinson's gonna be gone. I expect Kayvon Thibodeau to be gone. Trayvon Walker's probably gonna be gone before him. So that's my guy. That's who I'm trading up for, man.
Man, I should have kept that report to myself. It seems like I think somebody read it, and all of a sudden he went from being a mid first round, maybe second round guy to now he's a top 12 player. He had a great combine. But yeah, he's got some powerful hands, and that's where I was like, man, just watching it made me think of Justin Houston because he's got the hands, but he can also get around the corner and
if Jermaine Johnson is still around at 15, and I just totally doubt he's going to be that.
Go, yeah.
Jermaine Johnson is a guy that I would make a move for. Definitely,
you got to do it. You got to do it.
Kind of got to.
Yeah, I think. See, it's hard. I love Jermaine Johnson, right? In terms of tiers, so when I say I'll go up to the top 10 for Sauce, I wouldn't go to the top 10 for Jermaine.
Right.
Just because I think he is a guy who's getting pushed up by, he's got a really good athletic profile, but he is a 1-year producer. Yeah, it's a tough one. Traylon Burks at 29.
I like him.
That's
definitely one of the guys I like.
That's the kid from Arkansas, right?
Yeah,
that's the kid from Arkansas.
Dude is a freak.
Yeah, I would. I got to look up what his hands came in at. I really thought he was going to test better than he did. I was a little disappointed in his testing, but yeah, in terms of all the pre-snap motion, all of the so all the pre-snap motion, all the moving around, gadget plays, screen plays, line him up as a running back. You can do whatever you want with him. I think I'd roll the dice on him at 29. He has a lot of. It's just one of those things where it's going to be you have to have a specific plan to kind of manufacture his touches, especially early, and then I think you just have to bring him along as an actual receiver in terms of teaching him a little bit more of the body positioning and the nuances of route running and that kind of stuff. He's not he has some extra steps in there and he can be kind of a long strider, but he's a good football player. I don't want to take anything away from him. So yeah, I think I'd be okay taking him at 29. I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, definitely. So Country, you was about to say something, weren't you?
I was laughing at can he cover AB for 50 yards though?
Yeah.
Oh,
Just like Justin Houston back in the day.
How do you feel about? I've really been in the Pickens camp. How do you feel about Pickens?
Yeah, that was your first pick in your latest draft board I saw.
Yeah, no, I love Pickens. And I know that there's some people out there who are nervous about, he his production and all that stuff. That injury really messed him up. I think if you go back and watch him play before that injury, and I know he played a little bit last year, but he played very little. So his, just looking at the numbers, you're like, oh, he had a huge drop off. Well, he only played a couple games.
He freeze. Okay.
Yeah.
We got you.
Man, I'm sorry. I don't know what it is today.
No, it's all good.
But yeah,
so
big
Tom,
Pickens guy.
Tom, there's usually a run on guys or positions. Do you think the run is going to be on what position group gets the first run? I'm betting wide receiver.
Did you say the run is on what?
As far as
which
position?
you get into the draft and then there's a run where everybody takes a linebacker or everybody takes. Do you think wide receiver might be the first? What position group do you think would be the first to get that run?
I think it'll be the edge group. You'll see it with the 2 or 3 guys in the top 12, and then you're going to run out of guys, and you'll get George Karlaftis, and that's where I think you might see a Boye Mafe or an Arnold Epiketti get snuck in there a little bit earlier than people thought. But then, yeah, like you said, the receivers, they're going to go like hotcakes in the middle of the rounds there. With Philadelphia, Green Bay needs a receiver. There's a lot of teams looking to get some receivers, and there's a lot of guys who have the talent to play in the NFL, and there's probably 4 or 5 guys who could go in the first round at receiver. So I expect that run to happen pretty early.
Do you really think that George Pickens goes first round? Because I was thinking he might be more like a second round guy, unless Georgia got a pro day coming up or something where he can boost his stock up. But I don't know if they had a pro day or not.
I'm trying to remember if they have or not. So Dane Brugler and Lance Zierlein do the Athletic podcast. They've talked pretty confidently about George Pickens going in the first.
In the first,
going in the first round and going higher than people expect. So, yeah, I think Pickens will he might surprise people. That might be one of those picks that Green Bay makes, and everyone goes, "Oh, okay, well that sucks."
I mean,
Who's gonna be the shot? Because every year somebody picks somebody that shouldn't. It's usually Jacksonville where they pick. Who was that? Tyson Alualu? What was
Tyson Alualu. Oh. I'm not going to talk about the quarterbacks because honestly, I think any of these quarterbacks in this class go in the first round would surprise me.
I don't know.
Does that hurt us the most? You think that hurts us the most? That it's not.
It definitely doesn't help. There may not be a single first round quarterback, and that's unfortunate.
Wow.
You really want guys to be there. So, I'm just looking at the board here. Perrian Renfrey is a guy that we may not expect to go in the first, but I could see him sneaking in the back half.
That's the kid from Oklahoma.
Yeah. He's had some pretty good testing. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I'm looking at them all going, oh, yeah, all these quarterbacks. We just talked about this. Well, that if I had to take a quarterback in this class, it would be Malik Willis. But Tariq Woolen at a UTSA, that's the one. Joe Marino had him in the first round. That would be a surpriser. But the kid tested like an absolute maniac. So it kind of makes sense. I could see a team gambling on his athletic traits. Think, like the Dallas Cowboys and Byron Jones a couple years ago. The dude's 6'4" and ran 4.26. Tyreek Hill runs a 4.24. So to put that in perspective, when you're 6'4" and can move like that, an NFL team's going to want you on their team. So that would be one that I think that would be early for him. Probably not expected from a lot of people.
Yeah, I do. Let's go down your draft board some because we talked about like 3 guys on your draft board already. So let's go ahead and talk about Skye Moore. Skye Moore, I think he was propped up as one of the most agile receivers in this draft class out of Western Michigan. What did you like about Skye Moore, and why do you think he'd be a fit here?
Yeah, I'll be honest. It took me a while. It still has taken me a while to adjust to Skye Moore. It just seems that a lot of people who are familiar with the team think that Skye Moore has some fans in the building. So it was more of this probably makes too much sense at that point to not take him. Just like I could see the Chiefs double dipping at edge, I could see them double dipping at wide receiver because that room next year is going to look pretty empty. So I think his testing surprised people. He's more athletic than what people were originally thinking. But his technique and his physicality, you would not know that this kid he's 5'10", I think. Yeah, 5'10", 195. You would not know that just by watching him play. You'd think that this guy, he plays like he's 6'2", 6'3". Doesn't get moved around, in his route really at all. Just runs right through contact. Is really good off the line. It's an underrated thing, especially when you're a smaller receiver. He has so many different ways to, get around press or get off press, to get off the line in a way that's clean and not interfered with. So he's very far along as a route runner, and just as somebody who has just really good body control. It's hard because, like I said, there's I was a little bit late on him, and some other people really, really hyped him up, and I was like, he can't be that good. And then I went back and I was like, well, yeah, he's gonna be good. He's gonna be a fun one, and I'd rather like him now than to say, oh no, he's nobody, and then watch him go out and be kind of like Cooper Kupp or something. Not to compare the two, because Kupp's on another level right now, but to be that kind of really good receiver that you just didn't give enough credit to when you should have.
Yep, his footwork is crazy. The kid's footwork is crazy. He definitely knows how to get open. And like, he's so good on screens too, man. Like, I've seen him. He wins like majority of his one-on-one matchups. If you like get him one-on-one down the open field, like, he's gonna beat his man every time. So, definitely consideration for me.
So Tom, we hear a lot about Spags guys, Spags types, Spags fits.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you like in with that qualification? Who do you like in that fit?
See, that's tough because the type that Spags normally likes, it's kind of, those players aren't really that, especially outside the top 10. You're not, guys who are that big now, playing defensive line are usually really, really supremely good athletes, and those guys go high in the draft. So that's a tough one. Obviously, Jermaine Johnson was a big one. And I wrote him up, and I believe fits. I'm trying to look at his measurements real quick. Yeah, I think that Boye Mafe is another one who fits those markers, but he's raw as cookie dough. Really fun to watch. Has some really crazy plays, and then the next play, you're like, oh, dude, come on. Actually, I take that. His arms are a little shorter than I thought. Sam Williams, I just saw that name pop up. Sam Williams is a fun one. Athletic freak. Missed some time, had some off the field issues. In college, let's just call it what it was. He was charged with sexual assault. Those charges were eventually dropped. So you have to weigh that as an organization. And then you also have to look at the player and see that he is pretty much a pass rushing specialist. And if you're lucky, he'll develop into something else. But he's a guy that later in the rounds could definitely, third, fourth round. I've picked him up a couple times. Myjai Sanders, you guys are just throwing names at me. Love Sanders, loved him a lot before the year. He showed up at the combine at like 225, and he'd been like just sick out of his mind apparently, and dropped 20 or 30 pounds, just dealing with like a stomach bug or something. So he's bulked back up for his pro day and all that. I think he's probably going to be a guy who plays as a stand-up outside linebacker in a 3-4. Not to say you couldn't draft him and use him as a pass rushing specialist, but again, it's kind of that same thing. Love his play style. I just think that he and it's hard to judge because of that weight loss and because of the him being sick during this kind of prime time of testing. But I didn't see the next step in terms of his functional strength as a player that I'd want to see. I don't know how well he holds up full time, at defensive end. So there are a couple guys later in the draft. D'Angelo Malone out of Western Kentucky. He's another guy that I've been just kind of checking out. He's a little bit older, but if you grabbed him in like the 4th or 5th round, I think you can get some production out of him. He's a guy that, again, you could do worse. And there's another guy on my list I was going to bring up. We've talked about Sam Williams, D'Angelo. Oh, Dominique Robinson. That's the one that I really like kind of as that mid-round guy. 6'5", 253, really, showed at the combine, did really well. I think we talk about as a starter down the road. So, if they're going to double dip at defensive end, look for Dominique Robinson out of Miami of Ohio. So small school guy. Nick Bonito. So I want to talk about him while they're throwing comments at me. I love Nick Bonito. If I'm going to draft him in Kansas City, I'm going to draft him in like that 4th or 5th round range, and I'm going to try to get him to be my Sam linebacker. My third guy that I deployed, just kind of randomly use him as a blitzer, as a Steve Spagnuolo used to do the NASCAR package down when he was in New York, where he'd have like 5 pass rushers on the field. I would love Nick Bonito in that role, but I think he is a role player, so I wouldn't take him too early. I'd probably a 4th round pick for me. So
there's another name that's been common in Chiefs Kingdom, Logan Hall. I've been hearing his name in the 2nd round, maybe late 2nd round, if I'm not mistaken. What's your opinion on him as far as like a player and his ceiling and everything?
Yeah. So fun story about Logan Hall. I actually started writing him up, hated it. I hated watching him play, and I stopped watching him, and I went and wrote up Jermaine Johnson instead. I want to like Logan Hall. For some reason, he keeps telling everybody he wants to play defensive tackle, even though he's built like a defensive end. I think that's the biggest thing is a team has to figure out where they're going to play him and where he wants to play. He's got to pick a lane and stay in it. And his body is built like a defensive end. I don't know why. So I don't know. That part was confusing. Those are some combine. He made some comments at the combine saying he was most comfortable, playing as a 3 tech. And you're like, yeah, but you're built like an end, not like a defensive tackle. And so again, I like the potential. I like the athletic profile. I like the build. I even like the fact that he has some flexibility where you can kick him inside, and maybe put another edge rusher out there. As a full-time player, I don't know what to do with him. If I'm looking at him to be a starter, and again, NFL coaches are smarter than I am, so maybe they have a better vision and better plan, but I have no idea what to do with that kid. The pick wouldn't bother me at all. I would trust that they would maximize his production, but man, I'm at a loss because I expected him to come in and say, I'm a defensive end, test out of his mind and go make money. I thought he was going to be a guy who we'd be talking about as a potential, into the 1st round, day 1 pick. And he did not test that well. And he wanted to be, seen as a defensive tackle, which is just weird to me. So that's my thoughts on Logan Hall.
Do you think that makes him versatile? Does that like increase his stock a little bit because he can do both, or he's just not suited to do both at the NFL level?
Yeah,
he's not built to do both, right?
Yeah, it's funny how you can in one, and how you see it, right? You could see, oh well, he's versatile, so he can do more, or he's a tweener and he can't do, he can only do, both these jobs half as well. I tend to think he's closer to that tweener category where he, in college, yes, he could kick in and play defensive tackle just because he's bigger than everybody, right? At 6'6", 283. He's a big dude. He is built like a Spagnuolo defensive end, but it just seems like he wanted to play tackle, and that's where they, that's where he talked about wanting to play. So if I'm taking him, I'm going to tell him, day 1, listen, we're gonna put you at defensive end. You're going to be sitting with it. You here's Frank Clark. You're going to sit in his pocket, until he leaves the team. You're going to figure out how to play defensive end because you're too long and too lean to be playing defensive tackle in the NFL.
Yeah, because like the film I saw on him though, it just looked like to me he was playing better at defensive tackle than defensive end because I did see he got lost in misdirections. Like those teams that ran misdirection against Houston, he didn't contain the edges real well. So
yeah,
it's kind of tough.
Yeah, he certainly has to learn it. He has to learn the
Right.
position.
Yeah.
But he's not a Chris Jones type where you're like, well, maybe you can put him out there. He's like I said, is it versatile or is he kind of positionless and kind of lost in the shuffle? And it feels more like that. Somebody could make something out of him, but they're going to have to, again, have a very specific plan. I agree with you. He was not somebody who is going to set the edge very well. He reminded me, who's the guy the Saints took a couple years ago? Marcus Davenport. That's who he reminded me of. He didn't test nearly as well in terms of athleticism, but just in terms of play style, that's who he reminded me quite a bit of.
Hey, Chuck, who was the guy that Sean Smith told us? Perrian Johnson? Is that his name?
Kyron Johnson. Kyron Johnson. Yeah, Kyron Johnson can be like an edge / linebacker. And when Sean Smith told us about him, like the tape was impressive. I was pretty impressed by the kid. Everything I saw, the kid knows how to get low and get around the edge and get to the quarterback. And he was also very good at stripping the ball too. So, have you watched any film on him, Arrowhead Tom? Have you got a feel of?
I have not. In fact, I'm pulling him up right now just to try to stay relevant in the conversation. I've not watched anything on Kyron Johnson. That might be the first time I've heard his name. I'll have to put him on my list and check him out. So I'm circling back through some defensive players.
Yeah, we're gonna hold you to that, Tom.
Yeah, I'll let you. Well, yeah, I can't. Yeah. I can't.
Kingdom Building series for sure. He got me in there.
Yeah.
Oh, who's a guy I like? I keep hearing his name a little bit. He tested well, I think. Martin Emerson. He's a cornerback.
Yeah,
I don't know what school he went to. How do you feel about him?
He went to the same school that Willie Gay went to, Mississippi State.
Oh, okay,
cool. I was 2 seconds away from saying Ole Miss, but yeah, he ran well. He's big, 6'2", 201. I haven't done a deep dive on his tape. I've seen some clips and all that stuff. But yeah, in terms of second round, third round corner, I think he's a third round. He's got third round tape, but his off season, his kind of the things I've heard in terms of just how teams have received him, he's probably going to be a guy who goes in the second round and probably a little earlier than what people think.
So, everybody's worried about trading up in the first round. I'm really trying to get back into that fifth round with those 7 picks. Like we got like 4 7th round picks. Mm-hmm. I don't think we need to make 4 7th round picks. So would you use those as trade pick? Are those more trade chips or just trying to beat a guy that undrafted free agents?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would try to package at least 2 of them up. I don't. Man, that's a long day to be picking. 4 picks in the 7th round. That's even for scouts and all those people are people too, and that's a busy 7th round. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see them to do what they did. I think a couple years ago and package 2 of those and jump back up into the 6th, or throw a future pick in and get back into the 5th. We talk about trading up. One of the things I've kind of played around with is, if the Chiefs stay at 29 and 30, but then come back and trade back into the top 50 with one of their second round picks, trade up higher. I think you keep 50, but if you use that other pick to jump, I think it's 60, 64 to jump back in front. You could end up with 4 top 50 players in theory. So that might be a strategy to watch. If I'm Kansas City, I'm really thinking about that and how to make that move, especially it happens every year at the end of day one. You're looking at the list of names, you're going, how is this guy still here? How is those first 5 or 6 picks off the board, in that second round? There's lots of talent to be had. So I would love to see Brett Veach be aggressive and take, his second pick in the first round, trade up and get 4 players in the top 50.
Okay, James has brought these guys. Who is this guy?
Jareth Stearns. I have never heard of him in my life, so I'm going to do a live lookup right now.
James, who is he? Only
But
Jared I know was on The Walking Dead. He was eating a tainted hand.
So, yeah.
I think his name was Gareth, though. Whatever. Same thing.
All right.
I think the Chiefs have changed their fit at wide receiver. It looks like we're going much bigger, faster, physical guys. I know I don't want to really dive back into wide receiver, but who kind of fits that later round, big physical, versatile type of wide receiver that we're going for now?
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody mentioned earlier, they didn't like Christian Watson. I hate that Christian Watson had such a good combine because I was a Christian Watson fan before all that went down. And I think people are going to expect him to be something that he's not. But yeah, I like Christian Watson. I don't know if I would call him that physical of a player. There are times where he gets a little soft through coverage. There's another guy that I'm just like, and I'm afraid to bring him up because now he's going to probably blow up. But John Mechie III out of Alabama, like what you're getting at with him. He's a decent sized guy. What?
His name been brought up in the kingdom already, though.
Yeah. So. If you're looking at like second round receivers, I think, man, that just makes a lot of sense as a safe guy to grab. Maybe he comes in next year and and catches a couple passes. But then if you're looking for somebody to replace Juju or something like that, that's one that I've always been a fan. I'm maybe higher on him than some others. I'm just thinking because there's some other names out there. I know Christian Watson's a big one, and some people think, he might go to the first round. I am not. I will tell you now, much to maybe 2 or 3 people's disappointment, I am not a fan of David Bell out of Purdue. If we just stayed away from him, that would be great. 4.65 40 time, didn't have a good 3 cut. Just pass on. Pass on David Bell out of Purdue.
I thought he had better film, though. I thought he had better film than what he did at the combine, David Bell.
Yeah, I just think he beat up on some lesser opponents, but his combine was rough. And I wasn't, those big guys scare me because I don't know if they can separate. Give me Alec Pierce out of Cincinnati, though. There's another guy. You want a bigger receiver who's got a little juice to him. 6'3". He ran a 4.41 with a 40-inch vertical. That's get up. Yeah, that's. I'm surprised I'm not that surprised, but he's a guy that if you brought him in to be your third or fourth guy, he's going to probably make a couple plays every year, and people are going to go, "Oh man, how was he a third round pick? How was he? How did he get to the 4th round?" So big Alec Pierce fan.
Yeah, there you go, Kyle. You thief.
What's up, Kyle?
Had time for us, Kyle.
Yeah.
Hey,
I brought at least one fan with me.
We haven't talked about safety. I heard rumors that Kyle Hamilton was what the best safety in the draft, but he's kind of dropping right now. Petrie, Daxton Hill, of course, is his name that's been mentioned for months around here. Anybody else that you think?
Oh man, there's safeties all over the first. Tom, thank you for that observation. No, there's safeties all over the first 2 days of the draft. So here's something interesting about Kyle Hamilton. Yeah, he's the top safety. He was seen as a blue chip guy. Kyle's out here stealing my thunder. I disagree, Kyle. I think he might fall a little bit, just a little bit. It's hard because he's a safety. It's hard because he didn't test well. So I mean, you look at the history of guys like Derwin James, who went I think 17 overall. There's another safety that was just like him a couple years ago that was super athletic. Those guys tested well, and they were still only top 20 picks. It would be interesting. I'm not saying they should. If Kyle Hamilton's sitting there at 20, 21, I think you got to at least consider it because he's I look at him as a blue chip player, and Kyle, stop telling people that. We want him to be there so the Chiefs can trade up for him. Trying to bring the draft stock down. Whether it was injury, whatever it was. And I'm sure it would be one of those weird scenarios where you're just like, oh, this is happening. Well, let's jump up and grab a player who we probably shouldn't have a chance to get. And that's, again, with the position that Kansas City is in, they can do that. That's going to be the fun thing about this draft that has been different from years past is they could do just about anything they want other than trade up to the number 1 pick. And even that. I hear Detroit's taking calls at number 2. So to me, that adds a whole new element. Like I had to reshuffle because there's certain guys. Like I didn't look at Kyle Hamilton because I'm like, he's there's no way he gets out of the top 10. Well, the Chiefs, if they really wanted him, could go up and get him. Same thing with Kayvon Thibodeau. I've been working back through his tape. I didn't look at I looked at a couple of clips of him early on just to see. I was like, oh yeah, he's good. He's as good as advertised. He's going to go top 5. Don't need to write him up because no chance. And here we go. Here we are less than a month from the draft. People are talking about him falling out of the top 10, 10, 15, 20. Of course you have to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Listen, what kind of question is that?
Listen, the draft is a holiday in this household. But so yeah, Kyle Hamilton's one to watch. I love Daxton Hill. If you're looking for a versatile guy who can just kind of do a little bit of everything, I've said this on the Kingdom Says pod. I wanted so badly to compare him to Tyrann Mathieu, but you can't compare people to Tyrann Mathieu. You just can't do it. But that's how Michigan used him. Dropped him down in the slot. As a single high, as a 2 high. Played him in the box. Loved the player. Lewis Cine out of Georgia was a great tester. I got to go back to his tape. Also a big fan of Jaquan Brisker out of Penn State. I think he's more of that enforcer of the middle of the field. I don't know what you do with him and Jordan Reed on the same team. Just in terms of how they fit. Like they're kind of very similar players in that sense. I say Jordan. Is it Justin Reed?
Justin Reed.
Justin Reed. Who's Jordan Reed? I need to
I
look
think he's
at
a Twitter.
The former tight end.
No, he's like an NFL reporter or something.
Is he still in the league?
No. Yeah, he was the Washington.
Yeah.
Hey, at least you didn't say Chris Pine. Like
tied in for a minute. Oh, I think I froze. There we go. I've got a couple guys. So you mentioned Petrie. I haven't looked at him, but Kirby Joseph out of Illinois. I might be a little bit biased because that's where I'm from. He played just down the street from me. Brian Cook out of Cincinnati, and then Nick Cross out of Maryland. If you're looking for late day 2, early day 3 guys, then yeah, go grab those guys and get them into your rotation slowly. But there's some starter potential. It's a pretty deep safety class.
So what do you feel about guys that immediate impact versus an injured guy that you got to wait a little while on him? Like, what's the kid? Williams is injured. Ojabaye is injured. I know I'm probably whatever. They cousins. How do you judge waiting on that guy versus getting somebody that could maybe not as talented but can be immediately day one?
That's a great question, just in the sense of you have to understand what your team needs and where your team's at. And for Kansas City, the answer is both. Do they need immediate starters and people who are going to come in day one and contribute? Yes. Do they also have the luxury of having one of the better rosters in the NFL and can draft a guy and stash him? Yeah, and they have the draft picks to do it. So they are in a position where, like I said, they can do anything they want, but maybe they do take David Ojabo, in the first round, which, spoiler alert, they may be the only team who would do that. They, from a lot of what I've heard, again, I think this is Dane Brugler and Lance Zierlein and maybe some others I've heard it from, Daniel Jeremiah from Move the Sticks podcast, that it's almost, just assume that he's going to be a second round, third round guy now, probably a second rounder. So I think with with the Chiefs having as much draft capital as they have, and with the needs that they have throughout the roster, and draft a guy who may not be, there to start day one. I think Jameson Williams, you'll get some snaps out of him. I would be, if he was at 29, I'll run the card in myself. You'll hear me screaming. If Jameson Williams is there at 29, I think you do have to keep in mind, so somebody said like Williams and Ojabo in round 1. I'd be perfectly happy with both those players. You just got to hit on the rest of your picks, though. You have to have guys who are going to come in and start. Who's going to hold down that defensive end, position while Ojabo's out? Because you still need those players. So it really depends on the position. But the Chiefs are in a rare opportunity to do whatever. I mean, they can honestly sit back and take the best player that falls to them, regardless of injuries or immediate contributions or whatever. They can take their guys and do it pretty comfortably without a lot of pressure of absolutely having to get a certain player. I think the only position they have to walk out of the draft with is at least one contributor is day one contributor is probably edge. Everyone else, I think they can at least piece it together. So that's a great question.
What's your thoughts on trading for Bradbury versus drafting a guy? Would you rather use the pick, or would you welcome James Bradbury on the team first of all, or do you see something in the draft that's better? And I know that depends on how the board falls, but
yeah,
or sign.
Yeah, that's here's my first thought, which is I wouldn't trade for James Bradbury until I knew I couldn't get Stephon Gilmore on my team. That would be because that's a free agent. I think you get a better player. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but you grab him on like a 1 year deal, maybe a 2 year with like that kind of that option year at the end. You bring him in, and you probably upgrade over Travis Ward in the short term, and then you could draft a guy to learn behind him, and you don't have to give up that draft pick. If Gilmore's not going to work out, I think Bradbury's a good play. I wouldn't give up more than a fifth for him. And I know the Chiefs don't have a fifth. I think they have to be careful not to get baited into going, I'll give up a fourth. This is a deep draft class, and those draft picks are worth a lot. You can get some good players in the fourth. If we're sitting there and it's the fourth round and I have to choose between, Zion McCullum, who's a cornerback I really like, or James Bradbury, give me the younger guy, every day of the week. Give me a younger guy who I can mold and develop versus, and that's not to take away from Bradbury. He's a good player, but I think I'd rather have that fourth round pick. So I can part with a fifth, but I'd keep my fourth.
I like that kid, Andrew Booth. I like that kid, James Davis just mentioned. I think he's from Clemson or whatever. What was your thoughts on Andrew Booth?
Oh, I love Andrew Booth. I'm trying to remember who I comped him to. I want to take it back now because he's such a fluid athlete. It's just kind of you just watch him on tape, and it's like it's almost like he's gliding on the field, and he's just so comfortable, on the boundary, playing in space. If he's there at 29, I know the Chiefs don't trade up for corners, and I'm not. But even if he's in there in the early 20s and the Chiefs traded up for him, I wouldn't be mad, right? If you take one of those first round picks and you throw a fourth in and you get Andrew Booth to come be your starter, sign me up. He's a guy that last year before, so just kind of walking through the process. This time last year, everybody thought Derek Stingley was going to be the first, corner off the board. Ahmad Gardner was seen as a second round pick. And then Andrew Booth was a guy that people were kind of going, he could really take the next step and be, the first. He could probably leapfrog Derek Stingley. He's dealt with some stuff, some injuries and all that, but man, I love the athletic profile of Andrew Booth. I think you can do so much with him. You can ask him to do to play off, to play man, to play press, and just I think he's going to be a top tier starter in the NFL.
Yeah, because you comparing him to Kyle Fuller on this report here.
Yeah, I want to take that back immediately.
So what would be a more favorable comparison of his now that you're taking it back?
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot.
Oh yeah.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I see. I tend to see players and I see like their peak, and so I see, like a guy who can do it all like that. And this isn't even the best comparison, probably athletically, but just like who do I trust to go to play in zone, to play in man, and to all that stuff. Let me look up this guy's measurables before I say his name out loud because I don't want to sound like a complete fool. I think he might be perfect. Xavier Howard would be my new comp for him. So just, and I know he just got paid, but
I saw that in this game on the film.
Yeah, just like a complete package. Like he can do whatever you need him to do at a pretty high level.
Yeah, Xavier Howard left the corner, sign me up.
Speaking of corners, how do you feel about the kid from Florida?
Kyrie Ingram. Yeah, Kyrie Ingram.
Yeah.
Not as excited as Booth.
Not as excited. I would be very like, that would be kind of just very like, oh, okay, yeah, I can live with that kind of pick. I like his physical profile. I think he just gets kind of, I don't know, he just kind of almost trips over his own feet. He just kind of gets up, like ends up out of position on deep passes, and he plays physical enough. It's a weird. I can't put my finger on it. I might just need to go watch it and figure it out. But yeah, it's just so hard with him because he just gets beat deep more than he should, and I don't know if that's because there's more going on there. Maybe there's not the safety help that there should be, or if they're just scheming wrong or what. But I think he can play. I think he can be a starter. I'm sure Kansas City would help him out, but they don't. They will leave their corners on an island sometimes. Sometimes when they shouldn't. And that makes me nervous. I think he's a guy who probably needs some over the top safety help, just because I've seen him get beat too many times deep in college. So I like the kid. I like the player. You just got to figure out why he gets out of position and why he kind of loses phase downfield.
So he gotta figure out how to stay balanced and like you mentioned, like be in position more often. Because like the film I saw, I was like, this kind of looks like a Spags type of corner. But then again, there's those negatives that could be costly down the road if those aren't cleaned up. So
yeah. I just think he's a guy that like can play, but you have to be mindful of some of his limitations and how you scheme around him and plan for him to be on the field.
So let's go into the Chiefs actually hosting the NFL draft next season. So what was your thoughts on that news?
I'm so excited. So that's been kind of rumored and all that stuff. You can bet that I'm going to be all over it next year. If you don't know who I am right now, and you'll know who I am next year come draft time. I'm going to be everything Chiefs draft related. I'm just so excited to. It is, it goes back to the days when the Chiefs were really bad. So I became a Chiefs fan a couple years before they traded Jared Allen, and I remember that was the draft class that really got me into the draft. And I remember watching Eric Berry's film and in that draft class and just being over the moon when they took him. And so it's been, my love of the draft really goes back to my love of the Chiefs. And so these are like my two favorite things coming together, because for the longest time, that was the only hope we had was, well, maybe we'll finally draft a good player. I'm excited. I think, Kansas City is such a great place. I'm so excited that I get to call it home now. And, just the people here, the environment, I know it's going to be rocking. And I know that all I know is if Brett Veach trades out of the first round on, while we're hosting the draft, I'm going to find that man and we're going to have a conversation.
Man,
you can't do that to us, Brett. Please don't do it to us.
Yeah, that would suck.
Tom, as a draft guy, and I probably asked you this before, what's your favorite part of the draft? Is it the first round where it's everybody we know, or is it later when you see that guy, you're like, oh, they got that guy? that I've been looking at and and he's under the radar. That late round gem. Which part gives you more satisfaction?
So I think the first round is always super stressful because there's so many guys that you want, and you never get the guy that you like, very rarely. Especially with Kansas City, they're usually picking later. So the first round is like, it is what it is. Day 2 is probably my favorite just because there's just always good players left, and you're just like hoping one of them falls, and last year I know like Creed Humphrey was a guy that was like, yes, please let Creed get here, and I wasn't super high on the Nick Bolton pick when it happened, but like I was wrong. So just the value of those guys on day 2, and then day 3 is kind of fun just because you're kind of mentally exhausted because you stayed up, the night before looking up all the guys the Chiefs have drafted, and then you're trying to figure out who's left on the board that can be decent. But day 2 is definitely my favorite because I feel like there's just a lot of value left on the board, and that's what you want. You want like those, that's where you get those steals. So it's like, oh, that should have been a first rounder, and I know who that guy is, and here he is in the second round, and now he's on my team. I think of not that he made it to Kansas City, but like DK Metcalf. Man, I was hoping the Chiefs would take DK Metcalf that year. I remember that so vividly. And now I've said his name 3 times on the podcast, so he's got to show up. I think it's the Beetlejuice rules, right? Yeah, we're gonna manifest it. But that's the exact kind of stuff. Those guys that that when the pick is made, you're like, man, we just got to steal. We just got to stud. So that's day 2 for me is my favorite.
Now I did see the news. I did see the news about the Chiefs possibly trading for a top quality wide receiver. Now I don't know how top quality they talking. I know a good amount said it's gonna be Laviska Shenault, but then I said, man, please let it be AJ Brown and Terry McLaurin. But then you mentioned DK too, so I mean, do you see the Chiefs pulling it off? Like those receivers, or is it gonna be like Laviska Shenault?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think it'll be Shenault. I think they've got those guys, that tier of player on the roster already. I also think that people are underrating how much Mecole Hardman had a sneaky good season last year, and I think people are kind of underrating what the Chiefs are going to put on his plate. So there's that to consider, but also I think I got this way around this time last year, like digging into the way that I think the draft board's going to go. And I remember going, you know what? Like the Chiefs should trade for Orlando Brown. And I started saying that, and Kyle's here. He can back me up. I was one of the early ones on it. I was like, they should trade for Orlando Brown. And so now I'm kind of,
I think you said that last year on our podcast.
Yeah, I was on the train early and often. But just looking at now, like looking at the receivers that are probably going to be there at 29 and 30, I'm not going to lose sleep if Kansas City takes one of those first round picks, packages it with another mid-round pick this year or next year, and sends it to Seattle, or sends it to Tennessee. Here's the thing. The Chiefs were already ready to pay Tyreek Hill that money. He wanted more than they were willing to offer, but they could pay a younger player in that range. So like there's some like, okay, that kind of makes sense, right? There's a way to kind of do it. And that's coming from somebody who loves the draft and doesn't want to see them trade away a single draft pick. Like this has been, for me, the mock draft simulators, like I said, I've been doing like 2 or 3 mock drafts a day. Like I might have a problem over here. But when you're talking about what's best for the team, if DK Metcalf is available, like let me say it this way. If this time next week we're sitting here and we get the news that the Jets traded for DK Metcalf and gave up a second-round pick and, I don't know, a second-round pick next year, like a pair of second-round picks, are we going to sit here and go, oh, I didn't want to do that. I wouldn't take that deal. Like, even if you have to pay the man, we were going to pay Tyreek. And I don't think you're going to end up paying, and you get a younger player. So I'm warming on the idea. I'm not saying they should. Personally, I am a big DK fan over AJ Brown. Either one would be fine. Terry McLaurin would be fine. But I'm warming to the idea that a trade might be a smart move as long as you keep at least, I think you had to keep one of your firsts and you need to keep both your seconds. Everything else, have at it. That extra third, that extra fourth, picks next year. Do what you got to do. You got plenty of draft capital. But, I'm not opposed to the idea as much as I was maybe a couple weeks ago.
Okay. Hey, we need to have a public service announcement. These thoughts are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. It doesn't reflect on Chuck. It doesn't reflect on Todd. McCall, call Bobby. Get the schedule. Go work out with Pat. Please. That's all we asking. Public service announcement. These are my thoughts and my thoughts alone. Call Pat. Get his schedule. Come to Kansas City. I will pick you up myself and take you to the training facility. Just go work out with him. We see Cornell, MVS, Darius, all the other wide receivers are working out with Pat. Please, McCall. Please. Okay. And those were the thoughts of Country and Country Alone. And
I'm in agreement, actually, because we was making for that last year, too, on the podcast. But I remember him saying before, that's what training camp and practice is for. I'm like, no.
It just – but you see everybody's there now. It's like, come on, bro. Like, do that, man. And I was on McCall last year, and I was one of the – it was rare to support McCall last year. There wasn't a lot of people supporting McCall. And he powered through and ended up having a great playoffs. He could have did better, of course. But I don't think that was none of his fault. But it's contract season, man. Everybody's working out with Pat. Everybody's Cornell Powell, who is a draft pick last year. He didn't come in right. He didn't, blow off his game. But he looked like he right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, bro. It's I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest because.
Like, do you want another contract? Do you want
to be it or not? You know what I'm saying? What if they trade McCall?
I don't know.
That would be a rough one. So
because I think McCall brings a dynamic to the offense that nobody else is gonna bring. He's not the same guy as Juju. He's not as MVS. He's a wild card. You know what I'm saying? So, man, just go work out with Pat, man.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. If I'm a wide receiver in Kansas City, I am stalking Patrick Mahomes until he contacts the authorities and gets at least an order of protection against me. Because that's the other thing. I mean, as much as it is painful to see Tyreek Hill go, that receiver room, like, you need a number one. You need somebody to step up. And, like, especially for McCall, you're the veteran guy. You're the number one guy now. Like, step up and do it. So, I hope so. And maybe if not, then the Chiefs will bring in somebody who will. I mean, that's the side of the NFL. And I agree with you. McColl's got a very unique skill set. It
don't even have to be every day. It could be 3 days or, you know what I'm saying? Just to get that chemistry, just to get it.
Yeah.
Just for the fans. Do it for the fans. How about that?
Hell, you should want to do it for yourself. Really?
Yeah.
Man, I like McCall. I think McCall could be very good in his offense. And I think he could go to a next level. Pat can take him to the next level. And it's just, come on, bro. Come on, man.
Yeah.
From the fans. This is just a fan speaking, bro. Don't judge me.
Yeah. But real quick, though, before we wrap things up on the show, I got 2 questions for you, Tom. Okay, so first off, how many Pro Bowlers do you see from this draft class? And second, who's your biggest sleeper in this draft class that could be that Pro Bowl player and make that immediate impact?
Man, thanks for at least those are like easy questions to end on, man. Are you talking about the Pro Bowlers from like that the Chiefs are going to pick, or that they would be in their range?
That's a hard question.
I mean,
Chuck,
just as draft class in general. Just as
All right.
draft class in general.
Hold on.
I think there's a lot of talent.
That's a
here.
difficult question, bro.
Yeah.
That's hard. Okay, let's rephrase the question. I'm sorry, Chuck. I'm sorry. No offense. Who's the Micah Parsons out of this draft?
Okay, who's going to be the guy who comes in and blows the doors off as a rookie?
Is that is that easier?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Chuck gonna beat me up for doing that. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, no. I like that because I was like, man, there's a couple guys on here that I think are going to make the Pro Bowl. I've got one I'm looking at. I'm going probably. Oh goodness, let's see. All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna give a shout out to Sauce Gardner because I'm a big Sauce guy. But a guy that I feel like just as a receiver isn't getting enough love. Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, and like I think people have accepted that he's good, but I don't think people are going to know how good he is till he gets to the NFL and starts really blowing past guys. So that's one that I wouldn't be surprised to see him break some rookie records. And then you said like a late round sleeper, a later guy who, let me just look at my list here. We've talked about, okay.
Oh man,
I'll give you a guy that I like that the Chiefs may not draft, but I like him. James Cook, who's a running back out of Georgia. He's Dalvin Cook's younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
He just runs with a physical style that just I don't know, like just he's what a running back should be. And he's I think he's pretty skilled in the pass game and does well. We also talked about Sam Williams. I think there's a lot of upside there with him. The defensive end. There's a couple guys. The defensive ends I ran through earlier, I think have some potential to be pretty good. And I'm just looking for. I know that. Here we go. Here's my. I mentioned him earlier. Zion McCullum out of Sam Houston State. Everybody talks about this Tariq Woolen and his draft profile and how well he did. Man, Zion McCollum's right there with him. So 6'2", he's 199. Ran a 4.33 in the 40, almost a 40-inch vertical. And to me, he moves. We talked about Andrew Booth being fluid and that kind of thing in space. Zion McCollum, on top of having an awesome name, how cool is the name Zion? Just moves. He's got that lateral agility you see, when he's following a break on a receiver. I'm huge on Zion McCollum. So if he ends up in Kansas City, I'll be pretty happy. I don't want to say L'Jarius Sneed but that might be the type of value you're getting. I think they're different players, but there's some value there for that guy. I think he's gonna be a starter.
Okay, it's one last name that we cannot end this podcast without mentioning. Smoke Monday.
All right, I'm out.
Arrowhead Tom said no on him.
No, Smoke. You don't like Smoke?
Listen, I love the name. This might be an all-time
best name ever.
Class. Yeah,
that's the best football name.
Use one of your 7th round picks on Smoke Monday. Go ahead. You got 4 of them. You can even trade up for him. Nah, I remember him being on my early board because I wanted to. I wanted him to be good because his name, and I'm not saying he can't play, but he's probably going to be a guy who is a special teams depth guy. I do. That's how I feel about it. It would be so cool if who's your starting safety? Smoke Monday, or having that announced, over the speakers at Arrowhead. But great name, and I hope that he does really well. But I turn on the tape and he just seems stiff and kind of just not the most instinctual at times. But I think he can play. I think he's got a role. Like I said, you bring him in, that day 3 and let him be a special teams guy and let him develop, and then you can say, hey, I've got this awesome player who's got a great name. So that's where I'm at with Smoke.
Well, there's a. I'm just gonna name this. I'm just gonna throw this name out there for like a sleeper. I think Khalil Shakir is gonna make an immediate impact for a team. He's definitely a dangerous guy. Definitely a guy that's gonna be dangerous in the slot. He ran most of his routes in the slot at Boise State, but he can play inside and out. Just the film stood out. I know people they're concerned about his arms, but his catch radius is ridiculous. His route run is crazy, and just like his run to the catch, man, like the dude's just ridiculous. Like you can actually line him up, and he'll be able to take the little jet sweeps as well. So I think he's gonna be dangerous right out the gate.
Yeah. What's the kid from Jacksonville State or Jackson State?
Talking about the kid that visited here not too long ago.
Yeah.
What's his name? James.
He's a day 3 guy. He went to not DeMarco Jackson. Gosh, hold on. We're gonna find it. Let me scroll. Maybe we won't find it. I lied. Oh, James Houston the 4th.
Yeah, James Houston.
That's who it is. James Houston the 4th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So interesting player. Really
interesting.
Interesting guy. Again, probably a day 3 guy. Maybe that 7th rounder gets there, and you let him develop. But I mean, he had some incredible stats under Dion down there at just did really well at Jackson State. So
yeah, he was better. Right. He was better at defensive end than linebacker for what I saw. So I think he'll be better as a defensive end. He'll just probably have to bulk up some, but because I think he's only 241, so he might be a little bit undersized, maybe. So Phillip Gaines.
Don't bring up Phillip Gaines. We've moved on. We have healed from that curse.
Kevin always doing that on the show. He's always
ruined my 24th birthday. So
yo, it's your birthday?
No, Phillip Gaines ruined my 24th birthday. We all got together to watch the game that year, and that was the year that Peyton Manning threw for like 200 yards.
Oh gosh! Oh man!
Yeah.
Eric, was it the Sunday night game or was it the game when they came here to Arrowhead?
It was Monday night.
I think it was a Monday night game. Yeah. It was a primetime game. It was either Monday or Sunday night. And
was it when they came here?
I don't
know. He just kept finding Phillip Gaines no matter where he went.
Yeah. I don't want to look it up because I don't want to think about those memories. Leave those in the past.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I remember Marcus Cooper getting torched like that when they came here. So Eric Decker had a 4 touchdown game. That was.
I was at that game.
That was dark.
Yeah.
Hey, so Tom, thank you, man. You're awesome at this, and you really put the work in and the time, and you know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? We definitely appreciate you. Kingdom Says has found a gem, and we will revenge. You will avenge this loss.
So, yeah.
Nah,
man, I'm around all the time.
Man. Thanks, man, for coming through, man. We definitely appreciate you. We probably got to do a check-in after the draft, definitely. And just go over who we got and all that stuff, and then we'll judge it from there. But, we're going to be trying to hit y'all with draft content. We got Jordan Foote coming through. We got Harms coming through. Craig Stout may be coming through. Ryan Tracy, which I'm very, very excited about, should be coming through. So we going to really try to cover the entire draft and hit it from every angle, man. It's going to be exciting. And we appreciate y'all for coming through, man. Thank you, Tom, again.
Yeah. No, you hyping me up when you got all the big hitters coming in after me. So
hey, we start with the best.
All right. So you had Jordan Foote last week then? So that's a good lineup. So I'll be watching for sure.
Thanks, man. We appreciate you. Chuck, take us out, brother.
Yeah, before we go ahead and go out of here, there is a big ball game tomorrow, and we got 2 of the co-hosts. They're a fan of each team. Country's a Jayhawk supporter, only because of his cousin, but then you got Kylie with the Tar Heels. So, Arrowhead Tom, I don't know if you follow college basketball or not, man. Are you gonna be watching the game tomorrow?
Ain't got no time for no college basketball.
I don't. I don't, but we'll just say KU. We'll go with it.
So. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. KU.
Man,
and I support KU. I support KU for my grandmother, not my cousin. It don't have nothing to do with my cousin.
Sure, buddy. But nah.
Okay, we got a Kyle is suddenly a Tar Heel out of nowhere.
Yeah, Kyle. Yeah, go Tar Heels.
Can we ban him from the chat? Is that it's okay? Well,
no, we're not messing with Kyle. I don't even know what that means.
Them boys up to something.
Yo, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, man. We got. Hey, look, this is why Kansas is gonna win. Because North Carolina put so much effort, emotion, and energy into winning that game. They're gonna come down depleted. Kansas is gonna run them off the court. Kansas by 7. Damn, they're gonna lose now that I said that.
No, I mean, Country you made a great point, Country. I ain't gonna lie to you, man.
I should have did that, bro.
But I'm cheering on the Tar Heels anyway, man. But it wouldn't surprise me if KU got it done tomorrow. It really wouldn't. So.
Oh, and when Boogie come back, Boogie went to WrestleMania, so we definitely got to discuss that when Boogie get back. Boogie got to see Stone Cold.
The legend.
I've never seen Stone Cold live. That's the only guy. I've seen The Rock, Jericho, Brock, all the who's who. I've never seen Stone Cold live.
Yeah, for somebody who hadn't wrestled in 19 years, he didn't look bad. He didn't look bad.
I'm gonna watch it tonight. Definitely. So, sure. What? Exactly. Thanks, Tom, man. We love you, man.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
For sure. All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share on all your social media platforms. Until the next episode, we out of here.
Rock Chalk, Jayhawk.
Tar Heels.